Jeldar waited at the terminal, his fur wet from the rain outside, and an impatient flicker in his ears. On days like this, when the weather was bad, his joints would ache, making his old bones and prosthetic legs stab his body with daggers of pain. He would have been in a foul mood were it not for the fact that his son, Macar, was coming back from his Ungrualak, his coming-of-age journey. "There he is," he said to himself as he spotted a young and tall Kuratak like himself. Gray fur with black facial markings, and onyx eyes. They walked towards each other, Macar bowing his head slightly, with Dar's forehead moving up to meet his son's as they rubbed each other in greeting. "I am glad you are back," said Dar. "As I. Come, let's get something to eat before we depart." Both father and son wandered through the station on Jordok, a neutral planet on the edge of the core worlds, near the Kuratak and Vian borders. They soon found an eatery which catered to carnivores, with a proud sign displaying, "Best 0% sapience meats in the sector." Dar chuckled to himself, slightly offensive. After all, their species had never eaten a sapient despite their violent reputation. As they settled down to their meal, Macar told Dar about his journey. He had gone out to the fringe systems and worked as a mercenary for about 2 years. Macar also told his father of the bounty hunting he did on Macar 4. "I thought to myself, this Ulam is either going to be sickly and old due to how long it had been a problem, or it was going to be an experienced beast. Turns out I was right on both accounts. It was a hard fight, but as I killed it, so much pus," Macar said, shaking his head in disgust. Dar laughed as he imagined it. It reminded him of how he got soaked in blood during a hunt with his father, nearly 60 years ago. "I'm proud of you, you have really grown. Tell me, have you decided what you wish to do now?" "I will become a blade, and defend our kind from the rest of the galaxy." Dar was not surprised. He knew how interested Macar was in anything related to the military, and his determination to become a blade like he was a long time ago, before he became a diplomat. "You will have to train even harder for that." "I know, but you have taught me well," Macar said as he grinned. "Nevertheless, things will be changing now, so best be prepared." "For what? What has happened?" the young Kuratak of 35 years asked. "The Kuratak clans will be joining the League of Free Systems as a full member, and we will be integrating our militaries." "What? But why?" Macar said incredulously. "Why would we join those weaklings?" Intoned Dar, more serious now. "You sound like your uncle. Has he been filling your head with garbage lately?" "It's not garbage, he has written many books." "Inflammatory ramblings of a malcontent xenophobe," Dar replied, remembering how angry he was the last day of quiet when he argued with his brother. "But weren't you able to do anything? I thought you had sway in the council?" "What, to prevent this? I supported this." Macar made a frustrated face, as if he were about to say something before catching himself. "Say it." "Say what?" "Say what you were going to say just now." His son took a deep breath. "I would have thought with what those humans had done to you, you would be against joining their federation of peace-loving herbivores." "Omnivores." "What? Humans are omnivores, or did those books written by Joel tell you otherwise?" "They did," Macar replied with hesitation. "Typical, Clan Joe lost so much in the war that they would do anything to get back at them. I'll have a talk with the leader of education to get him to remove those fantasies from our schools." Dar continued on with the tone that he was going to lecture his son, and that he would not be interrupted. "Let me guess, they also told you that the only reason they won is because they could outbreed us and overwhelm us with their numbers, and that they attacked first." Macar was silent. Dar went on. "I bet they also told you how physically inferior these humans are to us, how they all cowered in sight of our warriors, and used cowardly tactics of long-range weapons. I've seen some of them on the fringe, they are not worth much. That's because you see they're outcasts and criminals. Tell me, did they also say that humans have no honor?" "Silence. Answer me," Dar said with a slight growl. "Yes," Macar replied with his ears down. "Look at me." Macar did as he was asked, gazing at his father, the blade, the war hero, the diplomat. his face crisscrossed with scars that would have made the meanest and toughest soldiers think twice of insulting. Do you want to know why we lost that war? Macar leaned in closer. First of all, we outnumbered them up until the last 3 years of the conflict. Our ranks were filled with captains and generals who only got their due to centuries of nepotism. We started this conflict because due to our lack of communication with the rest of Galaxy, we found that one of our targets for colonization was taken by a group of humans. Instead of renegotiating, we invaded and took their people as slaves. The books will tell you how we held the line against aggressors, but the truth is we got greedy. This incident gave us an excuse to invade their worlds, and we overextended, thinking we would crush them. It was a bloodbath. Those idiots would send thousands charging into their deaths. The only upside is that tradition demanded those fools in command die with their battalions. We learned, but slowly, with a great deal of pain. We could flip their vehicles with our bare hands, but they would keep picking us apart with snipers and artillery. Turns out we make good targets for them. They would bomb us all the time with those mortars, never letting us rest. Whenever we would try to strike back, they would retreat, but at the same time they were covering each other with their fire. We never encountered a species who could turn a dishonorable retreat into an orderly and calculated slaughter for those who would press the attack. That didn't mean we would never win. I remember breaking through their armored line while firing into their rear guard. I remember sneaking up on their sentries and quietly dispatching them. We bloodied their nose as well. Dar paused as he remembered the blood. That human was so small, so young. At that point in the war they wouldn't have dreamed of putting such young fighters in combat. It didn't matter, he thought, they were better trained regardless of their age. He had been staring at his drink as he told his story, almost forgetting where he was. He looked up at Macar, the young boy paying rapt attention to his every word. The only thing the history books got right were the numbers. We did kill about 3.5 million of their troops to our 2 million, but we couldn't sustain that, we did not want to. And out of those millions of humans, thousands were mere militia from the people we enslaved. We thought ourselves to be the masters of combat, hunting, and dominating, but they were the masters of war. We had an idea of what war was, but the humans know exactly what it is. Do you know what they think about war? I know they claim they don't like it. True, but I have studied their history. I felt that I needed to understand our enemies if I were to engage them in diplomacy. Their history before they reached the stars was one of incredible violence, horrors not even the most disturbed commanders would even dream of using. Firebombing cities, chemical attacks, suicide bombs, nuclear strikes, sure, they pale in comparison to the firepower a single corvette wields, but the death tolls of their wars were staggering, and that was to their own people. I know I may be painting them as vicious little monsters, but they are not psychotic murderers, nor do they enjoy the thrill of combat as we do. I struggled to find out how they could be so peace-loving, and how they could be so deadly in combat. How they could live in freedom and individuality, yet stamp it out with iron discipline when it comes to their troops. Dar's leg began to pain him even more. Macar noticed his discomfort. As it turns out, they had already given me the answer when I lost my leg. Macar stiffened. He had heard about what happened, but from others, not from his father. He never liked to talk about the war. We had been taking fire from a heavy artillery unit on the top of Grandark Hill. Half of our unit was killed. I lost many of my friends. I was angry, so I ran up. I ran as fast as I could while the rest of my team covered me. I had been fortunate. They had turned that valley into a kill zone, but there was a path that gave me cover as I climbed. I was actually shot in the shoulder, but I didn't feel it at the time. When I jumped up from the edge of the cliff, they were surprised. I took them all out with my blades and my pistol. They were alone in the eatery. Macar could hear the rain outside. I was still angry, so I decided I wanted a little bit more revenge. I knew how these big guns worked, and I knew right where to aim them. I was at the controls directing the big guns to fire upon the other human positions when I heard it. Clink! They threw a grenade at you out of spite, Macar said solemnly. No, not at me. I turned around and saw a human. He had been one of the first ones I had gotten. He was in bad shape. I had literally disemboweled him. He was lying in a pool of bloody mud. He had managed to grab both a pistol and a grenade, but he wasn't aiming at me, he wasn't even looking. He threw it at the ammo dump nearby. I tried to run, but the blast caught me, shredding my back open and mangling my leg. More silence, and more deep sighs from Dar. He didn't do it out of spite, he knew exactly what I was doing, so he decided to sacrifice himself. And that was it, I realized it later. They are masters at war because for them, war is a constant sacrifice, and they are willing to sacrifice anything if they deem their cause worthy enough. You can see this everywhere in their armed forces. They sacrifice food and water to their civilians because that is their duty. They sacrifice personal comforts when enlisting. I dare say while in training they treat their soldiers worse than how we used to treat slaves, depriving them of peace and sleep, and individuality. Their society is one of hedonistic pleasures and libertarian frivolities, at least to us, but they sacrificed that comforting way of life to become something else. They sacrificed honor in combat for efficiency, or rather, their honor became reflected someplace else. That is why we lost. We were never able to sacrifice as much as they continuously do. Dar then stood up, Macar following suit as they went to pay for their food. Macar, I know you are proud of our race and culture, and I know that some of us are fearful of how it is seemingly eroding away. They will say we are becoming weak, that we are losing honor, but I know these humans, despite the things we did to them, they even sacrificed their own hate and prejudice to make an alliance with us, and believe me, we need it right now thanks to how things are turning out with the Bosmac Empire. They walked out, the rain had stopped for now, the air still humid, but with some of the sunlight peeking through the clouds. I am not mad at you, my son, and I am very proud that you wish to be a blade. I know I cannot tell you what to think of these humans, but I ask that you keep an open mind. Besides, you will probably end up training alongside them soon enough.